important a lot of what I'm saying is, in terms of it just sidesteps major issues before they come about, and it gives us a way to empower ourselves, individuals, to avoid a lot of the missteps that we are all making in mass. And look, in other videos, I have alluded to the fact that eventually the companies are going to figure out that your sector, your socioeconomic worth isn't worth their time. Now, how long that will be before that happens, who knows? But products are being made for short-term, shorter and shorter lifetimes, and because the profit is in the made and the selling of it. And look, you can say the research and development, but look, I'm a bit of a technologist, if you will, and there's been massive failings for the last 20 years in terms of technology designs that a version B product needs to come about. And that cycle has been getting faster and faster. So what we're actually finding, whether it's accidental or otherwise, is that more and more the cycle is being built around the short-term profit. And at the end of the day, our planet can't afford that, but we the people can't afford that. We work really hard for what little money that we get to spend on various things. Generally, we're either trying to pay off a house, we're certainly paying rent at the least, and the ineffective use of the money that people then have to spend is incredible. And sadly, the time that is lost in following up on broken products or ineffective communication chains with your primary service providers, all sorts of things. Everything is designed for a level of disconnect where they eventually realise at what level of money is the typical consumer willing to just leave sitting on the shelf, that they technically deserve to be refunded to them, but it's not worth the time, it's not worth the trouble. And all these sectors are designing ways to make to essentially decommission our products quicker and quicker, and make these high value items that we used to buy on the basis that A, they were high value, but they had a high social worth potentially, but they also had a high resale value because they were a good product. And that is just becoming less and less of a thing. And look, again, I say our planet can't afford it, us as people can't afford it. And it becomes a critical breaking point where the happiness in the people will just go past a point of acceptability. And already we get that. We've got these current world events across so many different levels, which are very much keeping us occupied. And the occupation of those things stops us from contemplating our own navel and stops us from realising ways that we can bring about true happiness for ourselves. And of course, none of us have the personal power to make that so. So the nature of these videos is that if we align, we get that personal power. And we get that personal power to jump ahead of governments by assigning ourselves or resigning ourselves under a governing body that is for the people, absolutely about raising quality of life, and very easy to communicate with, democratically speaking, where a vote of what's important to you can be acted upon. And so therefore, in some world segments, I imagine the people would be very keen for something like this. None of it is about a form of rebelling against what's currently out there. I guarantee you, a large part of what we wish to do is to prop up governments in ways that they can look after the people. Because, and I don't wish to say an uncorrupt government, because I'd like to believe that the majority of the world governments are not intentionally corrupt. But they become corrupt based on the rails of the systems that they have to operate in terms of they can't operate against, look, I keep coming up to certain industries and certain companies, but the way governments operate is essentially above board. There is accountability, and there isn't a case of being able to sweep things under the rug. And a couple of world governments might work that way occasionally. And maybe we need to, look, we're always willing to take a government down. It's always a newsworthy item. And that's a little bit sad, because let's believe that if governments weren't so fearful for the accountability being such a negative thing in the first instance, it would be easier for them to come out and say, look, yeah, we mucked up with this. And obviously, sometimes it's a different administration. Sometimes there's a range of reasons that's going on. At the end of the day, when you're running a really big company, which is what a government might be, for the people, that there's going to be errors in some areas. And if the accountability of those areas is going to sink said government, and that would lead to an unhappiness for all the people, then the government might make an executive decision to protect itself. But when that's role modelled, now let's face it, governments on the whole are way more accountable to private business. And therefore, I think we sort of target the wrong things. And I think, if anything, we need frontier law operating in a lot of business sectors. We need to make the punishment outweigh the actions, the evil, if you will, or the mistakes. Because when mistakes are made consciously because it's profitable, we see that the money flows certainly uphill, but we also find that it doesn't ever flow back. And really, all the worker bees of the world, all the people, are propping up so many industries that are all about to bite us. And we can't afford that. Now, preemptively, I say let's bring about world peace. I don't say it as some altruistic, yay, this is really great, let's do it, everyone's always wanted it, where's the solution? I say it because many of us have children, and many of us have loved ones, and many of us want happiness for everybody around us. Mostly, if only for selfish reasons, so that we can go on in a happier society, and we can go on and being happier for ourselves. But let's face it, when we work together and when we make available the best of the sciences, instead of squirreling them away to this group over here, they make this patent breakthrough, and this group over here, when we put together the best of the best, and we make it so that we're better for standing on the shoulders of giants, like we've survived all the rest of the time through history, and that this whole commercial world that we've lived in has really only been such a short-term thing, and that's why none of it's being properly regulated, because we're not really aware of the tick-tock and the flow-on effect of what a lot of the steps play out to become. So it's not really anyone's fault for the world state that we're in, but the power of each person. So therefore you, right now, you've watched this video, you've done really well, I assure you, based on my view counts, on average. I haven't got a watch count for every video I've made, right? I've been making them for about a month. Look, there are a few other areas that if you want to find what I'm talking about, you can. I do have a Patreon that I haven't really popped over to for a good solid 10 days, mostly because I've been trying to create content for this channel. But look, trying to take the action into my own hands. If you feel that if I was to continue doing these videos, even if I don't have the personal power to bring them about, if you were to empower me to have the free time to keep making them, not just as the sun rises in the morning before my family wakes up, before I start my working day for a range of other jobs that certainly aren't helping the world in greater ways necessarily, but I put food on my table, and I love the people that I get to work for, so it's all good. That if you wish to back me, look, here's something cheery. Look, change the topic right at the end of the video. So I certainly will make this happen in another video, because I don't think the Kickstarter is up quite yet, but I am making it's like a graphical overlay for everybody's tech devices, where you can engage with your tech device in very familiar ways, and then you can do that on another platform. So if for any reason you need to jump ship from one platform to another, you can continually use it without a steep learning curve to be able to get basic things done. More importantly, it would be able also for parents to be able to hand their phone on to, say, young ones, children, or for elderly people to be able to use phones in a very relatable way, using very plain language to do very, very basic things. That the benefits for a society to have such access to such software, it would be massive. Now, I do wish to make it basically freeware for everybody, but that being said, there is a cost for a multi-platform license. So if you want to jump ship from one platform to another, essentially you've had a free test trial on one platform, you've probably conditioned the software, or you've probably trained it to work the way you want it to, and at that point, if you do want to jump ship to another platform, it's probably worth paying a token few dollars to make that transition super easy for you. But look, I don't wish to. I'd rather make it like a shareware type model, which is you pay what you think it's worth, arguably, because if the whole world is contributing just a little bit of money, maybe $1 or so, and that might just be $1 or so for buying a different character graphic for to engage with. And I'd like to do voice sets. I'd like to have all languages. There's a lot of things I'd like to do there, but the scope of the capability is limited by the funds that I have. And ultimately that empowers me to be creative, but it empowers me to also empower a lot of really great creatives that I know and like, or commissioning the best, getting the best people to do the roles that are needed. But look, it is a Kickstarter. I do say maybe I'll put a link to it when I can. At this point in time, I don't think it's active, so I feel like I'm watching it a bit early. But I'm just making up use of my last minute of time on the video before my cutout time, typically 29 minutes, goes on. I don't want anybody to think that I intentionally talk right up to the end of each minute of each video, but time does seem to go so quick. Certainly, I do agree that editing these videos down is of high priority, and if I had the ability to dedicate more time to these, I certainly would. And certainly if I had a team of more than just one person, which is me, I certainly would. So look, I'm really keen to put myself in the servitude of humanity, but if you wish to back me to sort of support at some level, look, there is a Patreon. I understand that giving money for nothing isn't really on anyone.